Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia and this is the summary for the day of 229 for the 10th of October. So let's start off with some situation in Ukraine. Ukraine are currently still struggling to restore its power supply due to the missile strikes from yesterday. And according to Ukrainian sources, which is quoted by the pro-Russian source, they said that as per the morning of 11th of October, which is now, the Ukraine has still not yet been able to restore power supply to more than 300 settlements. And as a result, Ukraine has decided to cut electrical export to Poland. So Ukraine has been exporting electricity to Europe, particularly via Poland, in order to pay for a lot of the stuff that they are getting from EU, all the resources, the fuel and everything. Not really, the ammunition or something, but it's more towards, maybe the resources. However, they decided to just cut off the electricity because due to the rocket attacks, so that they can stabilize their own energy needs. So, Ukraine putting themselves ahead of their allies or their friends, which is kind of very interesting because they expect their friends to put Ukraine first, ahead of their own citizens, their own European citizens. So this is a little hypocritical. Unfortunately, that's Ukraine for you, because they need the electricity because they are fighting the war, so they are more important. So anyway, they say that they claim that despite Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant has been taken by the Russians, they continue to fulfill their obligations to the European partners in the export of electricity. So now they blame the Russians for the rocket attacks which hit their thermal generators and electrical substations. They are now forced to stop electricity export to stabilize their own power system. So they say that it is the export of electricity from Ukraine that helped Europe reduce the consumption of Russian energy resource and increase the consumption of Ukrainian energy resource. That's what they didn't say. And they say that this is why Russia is destroying their energy system, killing the very possibility of exporting electricity from Ukraine. Which I would then question, why didn't Russia hit the energy systems in March? So anyway, then Kazakhstan is the next in line to now consider evacuation. So they didn't receive the order to evacuate yet, but they're currently considering. And however, they did warn their citizens to leave Ukraine and refrain traveling to Ukraine after the Russian missile strikes. And Ukraine, in reaction to these new developments, this step up from Russia, they are now asking US for new weapons, including the 300-kilometer range tactical missiles used by HIMARS and the M270, and they're also asking for F-15 and F-16 fighter jets. So this is reported by Foreign Policy. The missile strikes continue to be reported today, and a few of the more significant ones, Russia has struck the Shepetivka railway station, which is this one. And reportedly, according to pro-Russian sources, they said that this is a very important facility in the resupply of the Ukrainian forces. And they hit the railway junction, the repair plant, and some position of the anti-aircraft regiment. And you can see that this is actually quite far away. And they also hit another railway station at Pavlograd. So Pavlograd is a bit more obvious a target because Pavlograd is actually very near to the front lines, and this is one of those very important railway stations where a lot of the stuff is actually unloaded in this area before you're traveling down the road to the Zaporizhzhia line. And then more interestingly is actually the attack on the Ladizinska power plant. So this Ladizinska power plant, thermal power plant, it was reportedly attacked by two Shahid 136 kamikaze drone, or is also known as Gran 2 in Russian terminology. And this is reported by the head of the Vinnytsia leader on the Ukrainian side. And interestingly is how far this is from the from anywhere, to be honest, because it's like even from the front line, let's say from Kherson on the southern bank of the Dnipro, that is still 300 over kilometers. And let's say if you're talking about runway in Crimea, it will probably be 500 kilometers. And this is extremely far away. This is way further than the 300 kilometers range of the HIMARS with their most longest range missile. So I'm not sure where they launched these drones, but these drones flew this much airspace in and hit Ladizinska power plant without getting shot down is kind of a surprise to me. And because previously the drones are only used in the Odessa region, for it to fly all the way to Vinnytsia means that the air defense is really suspect. No, seriously, no. This is not even cruise missile. This is just drone, and it doesn't fly very fast, if you ask me. And in Lviv, there's the power outage is now complete over Lviv region, and so this is a situation caused by the missile strikes. And the missile strikes, this is not only the missile strikes that was actually launched this morning in Ukraine. Actually, there's a lot more. Just like yesterday, I don't report on every missile strikes because it's just way too many for me to report, and it wouldn't make any sense, because if Russia do this every day, the entire video will just be about missile strikes. And yesterday, I also missed out one report. Actually, it's the border fighting at Budaki. So according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, they said that the Russians attacked the Budaki over here in the Kharkiv region, at the Kharkiv front. And this is yet another one of those harassment or probing by the Russian forces in the Kharkiv region, where they have totally withdrawn. So let's see, whether this will end up develop into a major offensive, which I don't think so, because Kharkiv is still rather militarized. A better spot is just to attack Sumy and Chernihiv region. And moving on to the southern front, and at the Mykolaiv front, there is no news. It's a bit quiet in terms of the Russian sides. If you ask me, I feel that given all the missile strikes, the actions taken by this new general, in case you don't know which general is this general, it looks like they are preparing for a major offensive, just like how the Americans do it. They'll launch a massive air campaign and a missile campaign, and then they will actually launch a ground offensive, a major ground offensive. And I suspect we might be witnessing this preparation stage for this major offensive. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the Russians are just terrorists. Moving on to the Kherson front. At the Kherson front, the Ukrainians continue their Kherson super duper uber offensive, but not so super duper uber already. So maybe it's just super duper offensive, because there's only 3 spots. So there is a reported fighting in the area of Duchany, and then there is also an attack on Sadok over here, and there is also some recon by combat just in the area of Davydiv Bridge. So far, the Ukrainians still have not been able to break this new defense line by the Russian side, and is looking pretty bad if they still do not break through. If they don't break through, then the chances of breaking through is going to get lesser and lesser, with more and more of this partial mobilization troops being sent into the front. And moving on to the Zaporizhia line, we have no news on Zaporizhia line. As I said, it's a bit quiet in terms of the frontline actions, relatively speaking. Over at the western side of Donetsk, there is nothing is happening. All the fighting was not reported. However, the fighting at the Pisky region, at Pervomaisky and Nevelsky, continue to be reported. This continued to be a focus for the Russian side to continue to push in this area, and the final objective is actually to encircle Avdiivka. So Avdiivka is one of those thorn in the eye for the Russian side, for the Donetsk People's Republic. The lack of, if they do not capture Avdiivka, then Donetsk will continue to be shelled. So this is the situation there, which is why we also see a fighting reported at Kayamka on the northern side of Avdiivka city. And that's all from the Donetsk front. Over at the Bakhmut front, where the main push of the Russian forces are, fighting continued to be reported at Mayorsk, according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, and there's fighting reported at Ozaryanivka, according to War Gonzo, where they are trying to advance in the area here where there's a railway line and there's a road. So the railway line is actually here. So they also do say that naturally there is no trains running on this railway line, and the fighting at Opaine is not reported, nor Oradivka region. Didn't see any reports on that. Bakhmut, there's fighting reported within the city of Bakhmut, but that's all we know by the private military contractors, the Wagner Group. Fighting is at Soleda and Bakhmutske. So no details, just reported fighting. The counteroffensive at Sivas front died out. There's no more reports on the Sivas, the Ukrainian attack on the Sivas front. Yesterday we have reported there is a counteroffensive, which was no more. Don't know where is it. Yeah. Anyway, it's here. Yeah. It's on the 9th. It's not reported anymore. So that's the case. And so coming to the Liman front or the Kreminna front, depend on which side you are on. If you are pro-Ukrainian, this is the Kreminna front. If you are pro-Russian, this is the Liman front. And there's fighting in the area of Kreminna, which I assess to be in the southern side, because there is no possibility of them being anywhere else. So there's fighting, and they call it fierce fighting, according to the pro-Russian source Raiba. And the Russians have launched a counteroffensive and successfully captured this important town of Toske, which is just on the eastern side of Liman. So with the capture of Toske, you open up the door to Zarishne, and with the capture of Zarishne, they will have a totally open road to Liman. Liman is currently the operational HQ for the Ukrainian forces in the Crimea Svatove front. So this is definitely, will be very heavily defended by the Ukrainian forces. The Russians also captured Terny. So and then they also captured Novosadove north of Terny. So the only indication of any fighting in this region was actually by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. They have been reporting fighting at Terny for the past 2-3 days, and then when the news come that the Russians capture it, apparently the offensive was much bigger than just an attack on Terny. Apparently it's the attack on the entire front here from Toske all the way to Novosadove. So this is also a good a lesson for everyone that not every information will be complete. You see, the Ukrainian Defense Ministry only talk about Terna, you see. They only talk about fighting at Terny. They did not mention anything about Toske, did not mention anything about Novosadove, but somehow when the news finally broke about the capture of Terny, it turns out that the entire offensive is way bigger than it was previously reported. So this is something that I want you all to be aware of. Be it the pro-Russian side or Ukrainian side, Russian MOD or Ukrainian MOD, be aware that all information can be incomplete, wrong, or omitted, and which is why I want you guys to don't trust things 100%. Not even me. Don't trust me 100%. If you trust me 100%, then you learn nothing from me. So according to pro-Russian source Raiba, they said that the Ukrainians have concentrated so much troops in the Svatove-Kreminna front. This Svatove is here. In case you guys are still lost, we are here now. In the Svatove-Kreminna front, this entire stretch here, the Ukrainians have gathered up to 40,000 troops. So this is a major offensive force, and definitely the Russians are definitely not going to let them go. They're going to send a lot of missiles, rockets, and airstrikes on these people. But with a gathering of such a big force, we'll probably see a major offensive from the Ukrainian side very, very soon, and I have doubts that the Russians will be able to hold up against such a huge force. 40,000 is massive. It's as much as the number of people that have watched the last summary. So yeah, so the DPA army is strong, but the Ukrainian army is the real guys with guns. We just has fingers to type on the keyboard. So anyway, over at the Kupiansk front, the Ukrainians continue their attack in Vilshana and Pershot-Trasneve. The fighting towards the eastern side of in the Olyanske to the Tabaivka line was not reported. So instead, we have a report of a reconnaissance by combat by Russian forces towards Kurylivka. So in the area of Kurylivka, the Russian forces sent recon and sabotage group, basically we call it just recon groups. In the Russian context, they like to call it the DRG, Deep Reconnaissance Group. So they managed to go from the front line here to go until the area of Kurylivka. So you can kind of tell this 10 kilometers is really no man's land, and yeah, that come as a kind of a surprise to me. So and that's all from the front. There's no more report about fighting at Terezanka. Perhaps the Ukrainians have redeployed a lot of the troops over to the Svatove-Kreminna front to prepare for this major offensive, because if you ask me, there's hardly any strategically important towns over here. The most strategically important town is actually Svatove. So capturing of this city or this town here is way more important than anything that you can actually do over here. Anyway, this is the entire summary for the day of 229 for the 10th of October. And if you have not subscribed, do subscribe, and I'll see you in the next update.